This is the Polaris Sabre, and it's a fat bike, electric bike. It's the second generation of their technology. I saw this at Interbike 2012, a couple years ago, and they've really come a long way in both power and also just smoothness and how the bike rides, really. They still use a very similar battery design, which is this sort of fat down tube, purpose-built. It's really cool. They've run all the wires through the frame and everything, and really nicely integrated like that. Keeps the weight pretty well balanced. They're using a hub motor system that I would liken to almost mid-drives, because they sense which gear you're in and they sort of complement that. They're trying to make a bike that rides more naturally, and in some cases people have been a little confused by it, but as I've spent more time with the bikes, I've come to appreciate it. And so, before we get there, I'll start off with the bike specs on this thing. So 8-speed SRAM X4 trigger shifters. Up top, we've got these nice ergo grips with lockers so they won't spin. We've got Tektro brake levers here. They're sort of the upgraded ones with rubber and a built-in bell. I really like this thing. Stays out of the way, keeps things clean. And the brake levers have a cutoff to the motor. So when you pull these, you're not just activating the brake, you're also turning the motor off. And that's nice for any electric bike, but it's especially nice here because the Cadence Sensor is like a little bit slow to respond when you stop pedaling. So these brake levers pull mechanical wires for these discs, 180 millimeter front and rear. Got a nice matching setup here. Big oversized tires. Kenda 26x4. Looks like Juggernaut Sport. Of course, they feel really soft and squishy when you're riding around. And these ones don't have the cutouts, so maybe they're a little bit heavier. Not super light, but of the fat tire bikes that I've seen, this does a good job of keeping weight sort of centered versus on a rear rack or something like that. So I like it. Back here, it's the SRAM X5. We've got like an oversized gear for climbing, which is kind of nice. And then up here, we've got just a plastic, sort of a bash guard on this thing, but it cleans it up a little bit. If you hit a big rock, it's not going to protect the teeth quite as well as an aluminum alloy one would. I like the Wellgo pedals. They've got these adjustable set screws so you can bring them out or put them in for more or less grip, and there's just good platform right there, including the reflectors. They're just nice. I love Wellgo stuff. And then this bike has sort of a double leg kickstand, as you can see. Some of their other bikes, they all have kickstands, which is cool, but they're side kickstands. Because this bike's bigger, I think they opted for the middle one. So anyway, yeah, I was talking about weight. Some of the other fat tire bikes have the cutouts on the rims, and this one doesn't. It's probably adding a little bit to the weight, but it's not all that bad. And that's because this actually uses a custom motor. And it's not, I guess there's two levels of custom here going on. Polaris works with eVantage. These guys they're a company that manufactures for Black & Decker and DeWalt, and they're manufacturing proprietary stuff for Polaris. And Polaris has several patents for this stuff, so they've done a good job researching, and this is their hardware manufacturer. You won't find this motor on really any other electric bikes out there. It's very custom. 750 watts, which is like the top of the legal limit in the United States. So plenty of power. And this one's wound with extra copper to be high torque, because of course you need that extra torque when you're dealing with all the resistance of such a high surface area on a fat tire like this one, and with of course the extra weight and possibly riding in sand on the beach or in a snowy location. That's what fat bikes are really all about. You'll notice there's no suspension or anything like that, and that's partially because these tires offer a lot of cushion. You're supposed to ride them not so full, 5 to 30 psi, whereas like a traditional bike, maybe it's 30 to 50 or higher if it's a road bike. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, super big motor, extra special just for this version, the Sabre. And then the battery pack up there is a 44 volt, 6 amp hour cell with lithium ion chemistry. So lithium ion's awesome because it's lightweight, it's long lasting. The power on this is good, 48 volt. The size is a little small, like 6 amp hours. A lot of electric bike batteries are like 10 plus amp hours. So that seems small to me. They do offer replacements, so you could have 2 of these, one at work, one at home, or just an extra on the back of your truck or something. But they're like $799, and that's a lot of money, maybe partially because it's so custom. Like you look at the design on this thing. This bike's about $3,500 to begin with. So it's not super duper cheap, but anyway, that's the story on the battery. And coming back down here to the drive system, we've got the display right here, not removable, but this can actually, in the future, there's like going to be an app and it can sync with a heart rate monitor and it can control your pedal assist level based on how fast your heart is beating, which is very cool. That's one of the patents I was talking about earlier. The display shows your odometer, so how far you've gone. Looks like 27 miles. We're at half the battery right now. Battery level, half in this case. Time of the day, or maybe that's yeah, I don't know. And then assist level. We've got 2 levels of regen, so right now I'm at -2. That's the furthest regen. -1, and then all the way up to 1, 2, or 3 in assist. So, of course, the higher a level of assist, the more power you're going to get. And the way that this works is it uses a cadence sensor. So depending on what gear you're in, there's a little slide right here, like the wire for adjusting the derailleur back here. It goes right through this sensor area and it slides and it tells it, oh, they're in a low gear and they're not pedaling very fast, because it's also got a cadence sensor wheel right here, and it dynamically adjusts to say, let's not, they're not trying to go fast here. Let's get them to 6 miles per hour smoothly, and let's focus on power. And then if you switch gears and you're like in a higher gear, it says, oh, they're trying to go fast. Let's give them a higher level of power, or more power to go fast. I guess it's hard to explain, maybe to interpret. What they're trying to do is not overwhelm you with speed when you're just trying to go slow. And when you're trying to go fast, they want to focus on that. And get you there. But it really depends on what gear you're in. And this is very reminiscent of mid-drives, because the motor's right here, and it really depends on what gear you're in back here for how the bike operates. In this case, they're simulating it, I guess the overall effect is that it feels relatively smooth. Maybe not quite as powerful and impressive initially, but you're probably saving a lot of juice with the battery this way. And when that's paired up with regenerative braking, it does a pretty good job. One of the things that works really well with the cadence sensor is that it senses when you start pedaling and it immediately activates the motor. But when you stop pedaling, it takes a little while for the motor to shut off. And one of the benefits of this is that the motor's not on off. If it's too sensitive, you have to pedal nonstop for the bike to go. So it's nice that you can kind of like be a little sloppy with your pedaling and still have power. But when you're going off-road, sometimes you do want that responsiveness. You want the bike to immediately stop because you're at the edge of a sandbar or a cliff or something. And with this bike, the motor might keep going for a second. So that's where those cutoffs and the brake levers are so important. If you need to stop, yes, stop pedaling, but also like tap the brakes. That'd be my advice. So let's get on it and you can hear the motor in action and see for yourself how this thing works. Kind of hear it humming, right? I am climbing a hill and it's having to pull my weight plus this bike plus those big tires, and it does a pretty good job. I'm not hurting my knees or anything trying to get up there. I am in the lowest gear right now, so it's not giving me as much speed because of that whole pulley thing I was talking about. I'm gonna change gears. Yeah, I immediately notice more speed and get up and go when you do that. Like you feel it right away. It almost feels like a mid-drive because it's like you're shifting gears, but simultaneously the motor is shifting and either giving you more power or more speed. So yeah, I'm glad that there's a company out there that's doing something kind of unique, even if it's a little bit counterintuitive at first. So yeah, that's the Polaris Sabre, their fat bike. For the full written review on this with specs and stuff, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com.